Thank you for staying with us. Hope you enjoyed that number from Ketri Kwame Apia. Obin Kase, 24th Kokrum. So where are you going this Christmas? Well, wherever you are, just stay safe. The show is brought to you by Elegant Homes. And on this next leg of the show, we talk about resolving electoral disputes, ending the many disputes about parliamentary results. It's a conversation on what the Constitution says after results have been gazetted. Is there any way forward in such a situation? We're going to be particularly paying attention to Techiman South and the Hohoi situation. And lawyer Martin Kwebu joins us. We'll also be having Bernard Oredu, who will be joining us. Lawyer Kwebu, thank you very much for joining us on the AM show this morning.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure having you. So let's hit the nail on the head. Let's start from here. What does the Constitution say, first of all, about gazetting electoral results post an election like the one we just saw?
Okay, so first off, the Article 63 stipulates that when the results have been gazetted as the presidential, then that is evidence that the person who is named as the winner in the gazette is winner. So I'm trying to avoid the use of the technical term grammar practice. So in simple terms, if you are named as winner in the Gazette publication, you are winner. Unless somebody goes to court to challenge it, is able to adduce evidence, and so that Gazette will be nullified. And that's to say that the court will hold as otherwise. So until the court has held otherwise, the winner in the Gazette is the winner.
There is no remedy moving forward.
The remedy, so it depends on the kind of remedy the person is looking for. If the agreed person, in this case, let's say the presidential, Mr. Bahama, if he wants to overturn the Gazette publications, he wants to say that he has won and that President Nanado did not win, then it means he has to go to court. But if he wants other remedies, there is a court of public opinion, which is also very powerful. Sometimes the case goes to court, the court has held one way, but in public opinion, they have also held the other way. So as a matter of political strategy, if he prefers public opinion, then that one too, they use different, different vehicles, such as the demonstrations and the press conferences they are holding. It's a democracy. We really can't pin him down to one option, can we?
Right. So basically, then in a court of law, my focus then would be in a court of law after gazetting. Just to clarify, is it possible after gazetting for someone who has lost an election to be, designated the winner of that said election?
Yes, so let's say in this particular one, the president, the sitting president, President Akufo-Addo, has been declared winner. The only way Mr. Mama can be declared winner of the same election is if he goes to court once, and then the court brings into his evidence and everything, and comes to the conclusion that he was cheated out of a victory. Then in that case, yes, under the Constitution, the court can overturn.
So, looking at the different dynamics, because there are the presidential concerns and now there are also the parliamentary concerns. Let's take a look at the Hohoi situation, where, in fact, John Peter Amewu was declared winner of that constituency, the first time the MPP will be taking that seat. But the whole, High Court has actually ruled that, there's been an interim injunction played by Chachu Chikata in that specific matter for 10 days, the likelihood of a rollover for, another period, which could go beyond January the 7th. What are the implications of that injunction?
Good. So as you rightly stated, so the first one is theoretically, it's possible that it can keep Mr. Amewu Meru out of Parliament till the end of the case. This, and I'm using the word advisedly, theoretically. As to what will happen practically, we'll have to wait. So what, as you rightly stated, this injunction is for 10 days, meaning that at the end of the 10 days, each force would have vanished. Okay, so it will elapse. Now, usually what we do in practice is that just before it elapses, then the lawyer applies for a new one. This time, Mr. Mewu will be served. So let's note that the current one that was granted by the court, Mr. Mewu was not served to come to court to argue for or against it because there was an urgency. Yes, but the next one, the one that can keep him out of Parliament till the end of the case, it said that he has to be served so that he will be heard because that's going to be drastic. Because if the case is going to stay in court for, let's say, at least 1.5 years, the effect will be that Mr. Mewu, if it's granted, Mr. Mewu cannot go into Parliament. And so because it's such a drastic, it's going to be such a drastic decision or otherwise, he has to be served, then he can come in. But even I was making the point that because of the way the case is very, very, its effect is going to be very drastic. Even Mr. Mewu will start preparations to go into court even before the other application is filed. So I said elsewhere that we haven't said the last in practice yet. It's going to be a lot of fireworks because you know that if they can keep Mr. Mewu out of Parliament, then it means that the NDC can have a majority. So naturally, it should be expected that the NDC will not take it lying down at all.
Right. So looking at these dynamics, there is that possibility that John Peter Amewu, the Member of Parliament elect, actually could be prevented from, taking up the position as a Member of Parliament, and this could drag on. Is it likely that this could drag on for, an extensive portion of the 4-year tenure of an MP in this 8th Parliament?
Correct. That is, so I'll give two answers. If we are going by our history in terms of precedent cases that have gone to court, yes, it can drag on. You remember the famous Amu versus Dr. Adetu? That one, they finished just, I think, after the Parliament, when Parliament, the 4 years was over, so practically Amu couldn't take the seat, right? There's been other cases that were, the court finished well before, but usually this doesn't take less than a year. But the only rider is this. Because this is a very high case, there is also room in the rules for the court to deal with the case expeditiously. So that, yes, it's possible maybe within 3-4 months. Yes, that is to say the court will bring a lot of the time. Of course, based on application by Mr. Amewu, supported by the NCP, how they will demonstrate to the court that look, the case has to be put on the super fast track case list, a court list, if I call it so that the judge can devote attention to the case, everything super fast track. Yes, and that one, so in 3-4 months, we can finish.
Right. Now, on the back of our regional reorganization exercise, there was a reconfiguration of some constituencies in some respects. And when it comes to Hohoi, the case being made in putting forward that injunction is that some people were not allowed to vote. I know the matter is in court, in the High Court to be specific, but I want to find out from you, Lawyer Kwebu, these grounds that are being cited historically and, per the law, what is the breakdown? What is your understanding of it? Is it that serious a matter?
That is a very complex matter. Very complex.
Lawyer Kwebu, I think we lost a bit of what you started saying, so if you could just take it again.
Yes, I said it's a very complex matter.
Lawyer Kwebu, the line is not so, the connection is not so clear now. Unfortunately, it's better now. So if you could take it off the top, from the top again.
Yes, I said it's an extremely complex matter. So let's see if we can break it down this way. the Supreme Court, you see, Mr. Dr. Valentine SF that went to court, among others, to say that the constitutional instrument that put Santo Kufi, Akwafu, and Dodoki in the voter region, it's unconstitutional because they are supposed to be in OT region. At the end of the day, the Supreme Court came to the conclusion that, well, they will not declare the CI as unconstitutional, but they ordered the Electoral Commission to go and realign the boundaries. That is, in simple terms, make sure that they take Santo Kufi, Akwafu, Dodoki, and Lepe into OT region. You say, so what we have is that physically they are supposed to be in OT region, but on paper, under CI 95, they were in the voter region. You say. So that realignment that the court ordered was what the EC was trying to adhere to, trying to obey. But they didn't finish. So among others, step one was to create a district, which they have created. And then step two, I'm just summarizing as step two, perhaps the numbers are higher. I'm talking about the executive, the most important one. Then step two was to create a constituency. But to create a constituency, right now, that's at the time we're going to the election, it was not possible from 5th or 7th of December to create a constituency, because to create a constituency, you have to present a paper on it to Parliament. It's called constitutional instrument. So you say in the paper that you want to create one district, and then you state what and what constitutes the one district. That's the boundaries, the towns, and all that.
Right.
But to be able to lay that paper in Parliament, Parliament must be in session, and Parliament must sit for 21 days. So they call it laying. It means that you put it before Parliament for 21 days. Somebody has, when I say somebody, I mean an MP, has the right to torpedo it, has the right to raise comments and all that. So that is the exercise. So if Parliament is not working, if they are not in session, the 21 days cannot count. So that's how come the constituency couldn't be created. You say,
right?
Yeah. So, but the question is that the Supreme Court decision was in 2020. The question you should be asking is that in July, August, September, October, November, then December, all that time, what was the EC doing? So you see that the people complaining that the EC had gone to sleep, it appears they have something to say, because EC has not accounted for that time. July, August, September, October, November, up to 7.
On the back of what you mentioned, Lawyer Kwebu, do you feel the EC failed in that respect? Because from what you're saying, they had ample time. Do you feel that was a failure on the part of the Electoral Commission?
To be able to answer that, I've said at least hear from them. You see, in life, a lot of the time, when you haven't heard from the other side and to rush to give judgment, sometimes by the time you hear from that other side, then you find out, well, maybe they have a justifiable. So for this one, to kindly interview the EC on it. That's what we did in July, August, September, October, November. Then we can give judgment on that matter.
So moving this matter forward, I want us to go to Techiman South because there's also quite a situation there. But before we do so, just to clarify, I think you touched on this a bit earlier. Is that to say that we could have a situation now that we have 137 apiece for the NDC and the MPP, as the Hohoi umpires goes on, the gazetting and all of that and the injunction, if this overflows into, past January 7, 2020, could that mean that the NDC now could have a majority, so to speak, because the independent candidate, there are certain processes that must be followed before he can join the MPP. So does it mean the NDC could have a majority in Parliament? And would that also mean they would have the opportunity of electing or selecting the Speaker of Parliament? Break it down for us, Lawyer Kwebu.
Yeah, so first answer, the independent candidate cannot join the MPP. What he's going to do is that he can vote with them. But when it comes to the speaker, the speakership, let me call it a speakership, he he cannot be counted as part of the MPP in order for them to have a majority.
Right.
So that's why it implies. It's only when somebody has been nominated for speaker and it comes to the voting, then he can vote for the MPP. But the starting point is that in the standing orders of parliament, number one, they have to determine who has the majority of the seats. As it stands now, it's 137. That's both NPP and NPP.
Right.
So they don't have majority and who is minority. So I'm sure when they meet, they'll try to sort that out. But when it comes to the voting, yes, Mr. Siama, the independent candidate, says he will vote for them. Yes, so that one, when they nominate, assuming everything stands as it is, if they nominate somebody, Mr. X, let's say from the camp of the NPP, and for now, let's assume that there is no injunction against Mr. Amewu. If they go into voting, that's when Mr. Siama votes for the NPP, they can get 138, and then the NDC has 137. And because the position of the speaker is by simple majority, NPP can win. You know, this is very simple. This is just an interview. We'll see what happens on the ground.
Yes,
so
but...
then,
okay, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Number two, then the question of who would stay in Parliament, that's what you asked, right?
Yes, yes.
So now, that's the Amewu matter. As we stated, it's early days yet. First of all, the 10 days have to elapse. That's one. And then two, we'll see how the judge decides at the second phase of the injunction. That's the one that will keep Mr. Amewu out of Parliament till the end of the season. It's not easy at all. It's a very high key. Let's see what will happen. That one, I don't want to hazard a guess because if we do that, we begin to shift public opinion in one direction by expecting the court decisions to may come and see.
Right. So Lawyer Kwebu, I understand it's a tricky spot for you, but hypothetically, let's assume the injunction, like I said, spills over past January the 7th, okay? And let's not forget that even the president himself is going to be sworn in Parliament. So there are certain things that ought to be done in Parliament itself, its constitution, I mean the constitution of Parliament, the membership, before even the president is sworn in. Now, if the injunction goes past January the 7th, if it is upheld, sustained, it can only mean that the MPP cannot have 137 members of Parliament. It would then imply 136 that they would have, which would give the NDC 137. Is that the case?
That's correct.
Right. So in that instance, wouldn't that mean that whether momentarily or not, the NDC has the majority?
That's correct.
Right. So interesting.
So then they can nominate so if they nominate somebody to be speaker and the vote goes on, they can win.
So then what happens? It's interesting here because what happens if they have the majority, I mean the NDC in this instance, and they put forward a candidate and that candidate receives the nod, after all, it's a majority. So they receive the person receives the nod. And then later on, the court rules that John Peter Amewu actually won the seat and, per the law, he is the substantive member of Parliament. What then happens?
Good. But before we come to it, I think we made a slight mistake. If Amewu is out, it means NDC will have 137, NCP 136. But Mr. Chairman said publicly, let's also go at least with what he said publicly, that he votes for the NCP. So it means in the vote, it should be 137 against 137.
Right.
So it means that it would take something else. And maybe, so it could go either way because let's say if they put up one side puts up a candidate who is seen as a unifier, not very bright, but well liked, people from the other side can vote for him. So do you see that the arithmetic becomes very complex now?
So that would require some dialogue between the two parties.
Excellent.
Right.
Excellent.
Let's quickly take a look at the Techiman South, issue now, because that is also being contested. And both parties, in fact, some of the details I've seen peg both parties at the exact same vote. Of course, for now, that is not what the EC has declared. What is your take on the Techiman South issue from the legal angle, and what could, be the consequences of whatever action is taken there?
Okay, so far, we need to hear from a respect of one. See, the collation. When they finish counting at the constituency center, they have to, and the results are announced. There's what they call the summary sheet, parliamentary elections, collation summary sheet. Those have to be filled in. I understand the NDC to be saying that those forms were not filled in, and then number two, that the results were not published on the notice board. So at that center, you have to publish it on the notice board. So far, I've not seen those summary sheets and then the notice board publication. So definitely, we need to hear from the chief on that matter, because when it comes to the announcement, what is happening now is that the NDC claims it was not done, NPP says it was done. A certain video was circulated and all that. Yes. So granted that the video is true, there are two more steps. Where are those collations sheets? And then finally, where is the publication on the notice board at the collation center? These two. At least so far, I haven't heard there are one side saying that there's evidence of those. So it means that the issue has some questions to answer.
Well, to wrap up this conversation, yes, we're talking about Parliament, and something that has come up forcefully in recent days is that, I call it a demonstration. Roxanne Dafiamekbo, Member of Parliament for South Dine, who is on the NDC side, calls it a walk that, members of Parliament from his side took to the Electoral Commission to submit a petition. Now, what we now know is that about 10 of them have been invited. 10 of them are supposed to have done something legally wrong, which would, maybe spill over into investigations and criminal liability. Now, in this specific instance, we also know that per our Constitution, embarking on such a demonstration, especially when you've informed the police, like the NDC did, the Electoral Commission, like the NDC did, is constitutionally, supported. So how do you find this specific issue of these members of the NDC, 10 of them being accosted in this manner? Is it constitutional?
That's where being a lawyer, that's because the matter has ended up in court. It means that I'm not able to comment further, you see, because of the issues of contempt, and also generally we prefer that we should not stampede the court. You see, so that place, if leave people are commenting, so I can't stop them, but as a practicing lawyer, it's not, ethically we are not allowed.
Well, Lawyer Kwebu, so my final bit to you before, you let go of us, it has to do with the NDC. Now, it appears they are employing some of the legal remedies like we're seeing in Hohoi with that injunction. They're also contesting the presidential results, among other parliamentary results. The window for doing so is, nearing shutting point. What do you see moving forward? The NDC has suggested it would go to court, but they have not yet done so in the substantive presidential, declaration, among others. What is the way forward? What do you think the NDC can do within the next few days? And at which point do we, say this far and no farther as far as their legal remedies are concerned?
Well, so there are a few more days to the 21 days, the lapse of the 21 days. They have 21 days from the transaction of the results to go to court. So a few more days. I have heard on other radio stations that they intend to go to court. So we can wish them good luck, that they should look over dot all the I's and cross all, because, when a case goes to court, the standards are very high. It's no chance play. So they should go over, I mean, like you're preparing for an examination, they should go over and make sure that all their points and their evidence are well gathered. And then we will see how it pans out in court.
Right. I know I said that would be my final bit. Just to, chip in a little bit. We saw in that, electoral petition or election petition in 2012 how the courts looked at and how they voted on matters of overvoting, among others. By, margins of 5-4, decisions were taken, and the petition on the MPP side then was not, allowed through on some of these same grounds that the NDC is courting, the courts this time around. What do you foresee in that respect? I know it's a tricky question, but if in the past, I know there's precedent to look up to. If in the past these were the decisions that were taken, is it possible that this time round there could be anything different?
Great. So is it possible? That's easy for me. I would say yes. Because they will tell you in law, this is for 101.
Lawyer Martin Kpebu, we're losing you. If you could just start again and we wrap up on this point. We're losing you on phone.
Yeah, I said it's possible the outcome will be different because no two cases are the same. No two cases are the same. So it's possible that the NDC can convince the court that they were cheated us, even though in 2012 the MPP couldn't do so. So to that extent, we have to keep our fingers crossed and see how it pans out when we get in there.
Lawyer Martin Kpebu, thank you very much for your time this morning. It's been a learning process. We're grateful that you joined us, sir, and we wish you the best of the day. And that is Martin Kpebu, a lawyer. I guess it's fitting to say when it comes to this electoral petition, the saga continues.